Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of today. I'm your host, Sherifah Mohammed M.G.T.
I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. The December 30th operational pattern reflects continued consolidation and attrition with selective exploitation. Territorial gains in the West and Dnipro sectors, combined with the persistent failure of Ukrainian counterattacks around Kupyansk, suggest Ukrainian offensive capacity remains constrained and costly. Central and southern axes continue to absorb heavy Ukrainian losses, indicating exhaustion of reserves and weakening command cohesion. Strategically, the campaign remains defined by endurance denial and sustainment degradation, with deep strikes preventing regeneration of combat power and ground operations steadily tightening control rather than seeking a single decisive breakthrough.
Welcome to Frontline Updates, the podcast that brings you in-depth insights into military operations from those leading them on the ground. Today, we're joined by Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer monitoring critical missions on the progress of the special military operation as of today. Colonel Oguntoye, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Colonel Oguntoye, when you look at the December 30 briefing in its entirety, how would you describe the operational character of the day?
December 30th is defined by controlled momentum. This is not a day of dramatic, sweeping advances, but rather one of steady consolidation and pressure. Russian forces continue to dictate the pace of operations, forcing Ukrainian units into a reactive posture. What's important is that gains, whether positional improvements or the capture of specific localities, are being made without exposing forces to unnecessary risk. From a doctrinal standpoint, this reflects a campaign that has moved beyond probing and into sustained exploitation. The objective now is to deny the enemy the ability to regroup, rotate, or rebuild combat power, rather than to chase rapid breakthroughs that could overstretch forces.
Let's begin in the north. What role is this sector playing right now?
The northern sector continues to serve as a fixing and containment front. Russian units improved tactical positions in Sumy and Kharkiv regions, defeating mechanized airborne assault, and territorial defense formations. While the casualty figures here are lower than in central Donetsk, their operational impact is significant. By keeping Ukrainian forces engaged along the northern border, Russian command prevents those units from being redeployed southward to reinforce more critical sectors. The destruction of artillery, vehicles, and logistics warehouses further degrades Ukrainian capacity to sustain prolonged operations in this area. This is economy of force applied correctly, enough pressure to compel commitment without diverting resources from decisive axes.
The West saw the capture of Boguslavka and continued fighting around Kupyansk. Why does this matter?
Taking control of Boguslavka is a localized but meaningful success. It tightens Russian control along the Kharkiv axis and reduces the number of contested nodes that Ukrainian forces can use as springboards for counteraction. More importantly, repeated Ukrainian attempts to break into Kupyansk were repelled again. This pattern is telling. Ukrainian counterattacks are being launched, but they lack the mass and sustainment to succeed. Each failed attempt costs trained personnel and equipment, often Western supplied, without producing operational gains. That dynamic accelerates exhaustion and reinforces Russian active defense, where holding ground and inflicting losses are mutually reinforcing objectives.
The South reports positional gains rather than new liberations. How should we interpret that?
Positional improvement in the south is about shaping future operations. Around Donetsk urban and industrial areas, terrain that improves observation, artillery geometry, and defensive depth is often more valuable than seizing a named settlement. Today's actions degraded mechanized infantry, airborne, and assault formations, alongside National Guard and territorial defense units. The destruction of Western-made armored personnel carriers and artillery pieces indicates a continued focus on dismantling Ukrainian fire support and mobility. This reduces the enemy's ability to conduct coordinated defense or launch counterattacks, setting conditions for follow-on actions rather than forcing them prematurely.
The center continues to absorb heavy losses. What does that tell us about this axis?
Central Donetsk remains one of the campaign's decisive theaters. Russian forces improved positions along the front line and inflicted heavy losses on a broad mix of Ukrainian formations, including mechanized infantry, airmobile, air assault, marine infantry, National Guard, and territorial defense units. When you see such a wide array of units engaged simultaneously, it indicates that the Ukrainian command is spreading reserves thin to slow momentum. That is a sign of strain. The absence of a successful Ukrainian counterstroke here suggests limited capacity to regain initiative, even at high cost.
The East continues advancing into defensive depth. What is the operational purpose there?
The eastern sector is about denial and fixation. By advancing into Zaporizhia and Dnipropetrovsk regions, Russian forces compel Ukrainian units to defend depth rather than maneuver freely. Losses in personnel and vehicles reinforce the attritional nature of this advance. This sector ensures that Ukrainian command cannot strip forces from the east to reinforce Donetsk without creating vulnerabilities elsewhere. It's controlled pressure applied at a pace that sustains momentum without risking overextension.
The Dnipro axis saw the liberation of Lukyanovsko. Why is that significant?
Liberating Lukyanovskoye reflects continued rear area erosion rather than frontline collapse. Along the Dnipro axis, operations focus on degrading sustainment and coordination. Destroying electronic warfare systems, logistics warehouses, and vehicles undermines the enemy's ability to support frontline units effectively. Even modest territorial gains here have outsized effects because they disrupt rear area functions that frontline units depend on. This accelerates cumulative pressure across the theater.
How do today's strikes and air defense activities support ground operations?
Strikes against energy facilities supporting Ukraine's military-industrial complex and temporary deployment points reduce the enemy's ability to regenerate combat power. At the same time, intercepting HIMARS rockets and UAVs preserves Russian freedom of maneuver and protects logistics and command nodes. This balance of offense and defense is essential. It allows ground forces to consolidate gains without being disrupted by long-range strikes or UAV saturation.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Thank you for the opportunity. I want to emphasize that tactically, December 30th reflects disciplined consolidation and attrition rather than rapid maneuver. The capture of Boguslavka and Lukyanovskoye, combined with repeated failure of Ukrainian counterattacks around Kupyansk, indicate constrained Ukrainian offensive capacity. Strategically, sustained pressure across central and southern axes continues to erode Ukrainian reserves and command cohesion, while peripheral fronts fix forces and degrade sustainment. The campaign remains defined by endurance denial and incremental control, setting conditions for further exploitation rather than seeking a single decisive blow.
This has been Frontline Updates. Subscribe for daily military briefings and in-depth strategic analysis. Visit our platform for maps, transcripts, and exclusive frontline updates from commanders in theater.